Hello, everyone. Welcome to Third Thursdays with Tom and Tim. I'm Tim Nutt.
I'm Tom Dillard, and we're glad to have you with us tonight. I am a longtime student of Arkansas history and Arkansas studies and that sort of thing. Tim also has a long history and a background in Arkansas studies. So we're here to talk about Arkansas tonight.
Which is what we do for every show. We talk about all things Arkansas.
We have limited interest, don't we? I'm afraid.
But tonight it's going to be interesting because we're going to be talking about things that you could get friends or significant others for Christmas, gifts for Christmas.
Yeah, Arkansas is filled with craftsmen of all kinds. And, you know, they're just some great gifts. And we are now getting, I think we're now getting more and more venues in which these sorts of gifts are sold. We're a lot of the museums and even libraries now are adding gift shops, many of which handle Arkansas-made products.
Do you remember, as a kid, a Christmas gift that stands out as one of your favorites when you were a kid, or maybe when you weren't a kid?
Well, yes, I do indeed. I have gone through life dealing with a Christmas Eve birthday. And as an adult, that doesn't make any difference. But as a little child, the failure to get a birthday party was difficult. And but the worst thing was that I did not get individual birthday gifts. I got Christmas gifts, and they would say, "Oh, happy birthday and Merry Christmas, here's your gift." Well, that did not set well with me. And my oldest sibling, a sister named Blanche, one year she showed up at Christmas and she gave me two gifts, both of them separately wrapped. And for my birthday, she gave me a pair of spurs. Now, I needed spurs. I had a bicycle, and I pretended sometimes it was a horse, but I wore those spurs around forever. And I think that always had an impact on me, even as an adult, when people like you ask me, what do you remember? That really rang a bell with me. But I think part of that was just the fact that I didn't get birthday gifts very often. But on Christmas, that particular year, it was my birthday gift that took my heart.
I have a similar story. Mine, of course, we always look through the Penny's or Sears catalog, the Christmas catalog when it came out. And so we would dog ear the pages of things that we wanted. And then we would give the list to our parents, and then they would choose things from that list mostly. And we may or may not get them. I don't know. But I remember one year there's this new game out, and I was probably, 8 or 9, something like that. And it was called Lay an Egg. And it had plastic chickens, and you went around, you had to hit the chicken on the head and it laid an egg, and there was a golden egg. And so if the chicken laid the golden egg, you got some sort of prize. I don't remember how the game was actually played, but then there were also brown eggs in there, which were they were bad. You weren't supposed to get the brown eggs.
So how old were you when you got this? 18?
No, I was like 8 or 9. I remember I wanted that game so badly when I was a kid, and I was so excited when I opened up the gift on Christmas, and there it was. And then we have this. We have a picture. Of course, my mom always took photos of us at Christmas. She had lined up all the kids to get photos, and there's this one Polaroid picture of me holding Lay an Egg up with all my brothers and sisters around me. My twin brother Tony, I think he was jealous of me getting that.
Well, of course.
But also when we got an Atari, I remember when we got an Atari, that was pretty neat too.
I think one of the things that sticks with a lot of kids is, and a lot of kids have this experience, they will find on Christmas morning a bicycle as a Christmas gift. And I remember that certainly. And that was really important. There were 3 of us siblings at that particular time. My parents had an older group and a younger group, and I was in the younger group. And it was it was interesting how our gifts differed from their gifts. They said they complained that all they got were rag dolls and string balls, and here I was, and all my younger siblings getting a bicycle for Christmas. Anyhow, those memories are great, and I share them. And fortunately, I also enjoy giving Christmas gifts. It's a lot of fun. I like to shop year round. I try to keep people in mind. And when I come across something, I'll put it up in a closet. And if I have a good mind, that when Christmas rolls around, I'll remember where they are.
I think I'm terrible at buying gifts. It always seems like a chore for me to come up with ideas to give people for gifts for Christmas. But I try. I think I'm getting better the older I get. But of course, now most of the gifts that I want for Christmas are Arkansas related.
Well, that's related to your area of interest and your area of research and your profession, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that as I get older, I have a greater appreciation for ceramics. And Arkansas is filled with interesting potters. One of my favorite is my personal friend, Celia Story. And this is one of her works here. I'm not sure that you can really get much of a feel for it, but Celia, who is a journalist at the Arkansas Democrat Gazette and a longtime friend of mine, Celia took up ceramics in her advanced middle age, and she has really built a reputation for herself. I think she markets under the name Mud Pies, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so. I think you're right.
Celia Story. Lots of great potters out there, though. I also wanted to talk about another work of art that I like. I like to collect Arkansas art, and we've talked about that quite a lot.
We've had a whole show on Arkansas art.
Yeah. One year for Christmas, I believe it was you, gave me this. This is a linoleum print, probably, by Natalie S. Henry. It's called Swamp Fishing. And she is an interesting person. She was a muralist, among other things. She was from Malvern, which is close to where I live today. And she did I believe she did the mural at the Springdale Post Office, which is still visible.
And
today.
it's a great mural. It's the agriculture of Washington County, I believe.
You know, today people don't think necessarily of Washington and Benton counties as being agricultural, but in the past they really were. And you know, at one time Benton County had more apple trees than any other county in the whole nation. Interesting topics that we have to record in our art. And she left after she did her mural during the WPA. She eventually retired to Malvern, where she lived the rest of her life and painted. And I believe she gave lessons, art lessons also. So it's interesting to get a gift like that, and I appreciate it.
Sure. You're easy to buy for, because giving an Arkansas gift is always a safe bet, giving you a gift. But I like receiving art too. I've received a number of art pieces over the years as well. But one of my favorite pieces, you mentioned Celia's Story earlier, and this is a piece of pottery that a friend of mine gave me back in the mid 90s, I believe. And this is by Alan Leverett's father. And
we have been sitting here trying to think of what is the name of this artist. His name is Everett. Leverett, and he is Alan Leverett's father. If you know Arkansas Times magazine, that is a product of the famous Alan Leverett, and his father was a potter, among other things.
Yeah, and I'm embarrassed that I can't remember his first name.
I am too. And as you can see in this piece, he did a lot of swirl pottery. We know swirl pottery, of course, from the Niloke, the famous Niloke pottery in Benton. And Mr. Leverett went through a period where he did a lot of swirl pottery.
I was really pleased to get that. So it's one of my favorite pieces that I have in my collection. Of course, we always also give Arkansas books for Christmas, and those are always, it always amazes me when I make my Christmas wish list of the number of Arkansas books that are out there.
You know, I can remember back before, let's say before 1980. I use the date 1980 because that's when the University of Arkansas Press was established. And the creation of the University of Arkansas Press really began a renaissance in Arkansas studies publishing. The U of A Press has been a godsend to anyone who's interested in Arkansas studies, and not just history, politics, art, business, all kinds of interesting things. One of the books that,
before you move to your book, this is the good thing about this show, is that when we can't think of a name, there are a number of people who check us. And and Joseph Philip Leverett,
who sent us that?
Malin Rice, who is
Malin is a font of information, isn't he?
He is. So thank you, Malin, for refreshing our memories on that.
Malin, you have a pretty big assignment in the future, at least as far as I'm concerned. I worry about my memory. But you know, one of the books that I think back on, I've gotten hundreds of books for Christmas through the years, and I still get really excited about books that come along that I want to know something about. And I don't limit myself just to Arkansas. For example, I have asked recently, and I believe my wife is going to be giving me, no, maybe my son. I think he's going to be giving me a copy of the new biography of the Marquis de Lafayette, who played a huge role in American independence. There have been two biographies of him written, one in English and one in French. They say the American biography of him is much more positive than the French biography. But anyhow, I don't limit myself just to Arkansas studies, but there's so much being done out there, and the quality of it is quite good. And you can get stuff across a range. For example, the book that I picked to bring to show tonight is Widow's Webb by Jean Lyons. Widow's Webb is a book of really significant, great significance. I think everybody who works in law enforcement or justice, works in the justice system, ought to read this book. Jean Lyons produced a really amazing study of all of the events surrounding the murder of two people by Mary Lee Orsini. This was back in the 80s or 90s, 80s, I guess. They lived in North Little Rock. She not only murdered her husband, but she possibly, there's the possibility that she murdered other people. We know that she murdered the wife of her attorney, Bill MacArthur's wife. But it's not a murder story. This is not a murder story. Widow's Webb is an incredible look, the true story of a Little Rock beauty whose deadly wiles led to two murders and scandalized the entire state of Arkansas. Interestingly, you know, like a lot of sociopaths, it's very difficult to figure out these people. And it took a long time for people to figure out Mary Lee Orsini. And I'm not sure that people ever really understood her. You know, I was years afterwards, probably 10 years after this event, two friends of mine who had been active in work with prisoners at the women's prison. My two friends went down to the women's prison to the Christmas pageant. And guess who was playing Mary, Mother of Jesus, in that Christmas pageant? Mary Lee Orsini. And, every time I think about this murder, she is now, I believe she died in prison, if I'm not mistaken.
I think so.
Every time I think about her, I think about this book. Every time I think about out of control politicians, I think about this book. Tommy Robinson was sheriff at that time. And Tommy Robinson was a really vile person. His administration as sheriff was filled with all kinds of charges and counter charges. But the worst thing about Tommy Robinson and the Mary Lee Orsini thing is we don't really know what role he played in all of this. One of the things that Gene Lyons points out in this book is that when the police arrived at the MacArthur home in West Little Rock, sheriff's deputies were already there. Why they were there, is one of those things that we don't know about. But anyhow, Mary Lee Orsini was somebody who was able to con Sheriff Robinson and a lot of other people and do some really awful things. And it took us a long time to ever come to terms with that. And I think Gene Lyons' book, Widow's Web, is just a fabulous book. You can go online and find it. I don't think it's in print anymore, but I'm sure it's out there. Make a great Christmas gift for someone who wants to read about one of the most interesting and scary murders and scary, even more scary investigations of a murder.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I will say that Widow's Web, I think it's one of the best books about an Arkansas subject across lots of genres. I mean, I think it's not just a true crime book, but political, and it reads like a fiction, a novel.
Well, Gene Lyons, of course, is a well-known writer. He has written a column. He has written a great deal of time since his time being in Arkansas. I think he started out at UALR, if I'm not mistaken, but he left there and has been writing as a freelancer for a long time. And of course, he's done a number of other books too, but Widow's Web is the one that I got for Christmas one year and really benefited from it.
I've gotten a number of books. Of course, we've talked about this before on previous episodes of Third Thursdays, but I collect Arkansas fiction. I've sort of moved over into collecting that, not exclusively, but mostly. And it always amazes me how many novels of Arkansas there are, and especially now with the self-publishing and it's just everyone can write a novel. But one of the novels,
I'll bet that any week of the year there is an Arkansas novel published. I would not be surprised if there's
probably not. I would agree with that.
There's just hundreds of them out there.
But one of the books that I received for a Christmas gift a few years ago, and we've mentioned this on the show before, but this is The Visiting Girl, which is by Jean Loughborough. And The Visiting Girl, A Story of Little Rock Society. So it's a novel of sort of the
upper class.
The upper class in Little Rock. And of course, all the names have been changed in the book.
And this dates from
1890.
1890.
Mm-hmm.
Did she change the names?
She did. Mm-hmm. The copy of that book that I got, the person who gave me that book, which I think was you.
Yes, I think so.
And I guess this came with it when you bought the book somewhere. But someone typed up a list of the names and the characters in the book, and then who they actually were in the novel.
You need to make sure that gets into the historical record somehow or other. Speaking of books, in which names were changed, I gave a workshop just recently in which I was talking about some really amazing Arkansas women, and I talked about my favorite prostitute. And of course, I always get a good laugh from that line. But Maxine Jones from Hot Springs, who had owned a brothel over there in the mid part of the 20th century, she did a book in her old age, a memoir, and Call Me Madam was the name of it, published, I'd say, in the 80s or early 1990s, perhaps. And there's a great story that goes with that book. She first took the book, the manuscript, to Walter Nunn, who was the proprietor of Rose Publishing Company in Little Rock. Rose pretty well carried the load for publishing in Arkansas until we got the U of A Press in 1980. Well, anyhow, I started noticing in the late 1980s that there was a lady at the Arkansas Historical Association conventions. She came to 2 or 3, maybe 4 of the conventions, selling her book, Call Me Madam. And I talked with Walter Nunn about it. He said that he would love to have published it, and he told her that. And he said, but you just cannot use these names of real people and people of authority and power over in Hot Springs in many cases. And so he said, take this back home, work it over, change the names, and bring it back, and we'll talk about it again. So that when she brought it back some weeks later, and he cracked up laughing when he told me this, she had changed the names all right, but they just wouldn't work. For example, State Senator Q. Byram Hurst became State Senator Q. Byram Durst. So Walter told her that he just couldn't do it. Well, anyhow, she did some more work on it, and then she published it herself, Call Me Madam. And when I bought my copy, it did not have a list with it, but somewhere along the line, I came up, and I can't remember where I got this, with a list of the people in Call Me Madam, and then what their real names were.
There was a book, Murray Sheehan, who was on the faculty at U of A in Fayetteville. He wrote a novel called Half Gods, and changed the names of Fayetteville people. And I've seen the list of the characters versus who they really are. So it's always interesting. You have to change the names to protect the innocent and the guilty, I guess.
Yeah, but unfortunately, looking at it from a historical perspective, it's good to have that list.
Right. Speaking of Hot Springs, and we'll get to our guest here shortly, but I wanted to mention that, in the last couple of years, we've had so many books published on Hot Springs. We had The Vapors, and
The Vapors is an important book, and that would make a great Christmas gift. It has gotten universally good reviews.
And then there's the book by Elliot Bowen on the treatment of syphilis in Hot Springs in the 1890s, in the early part of the 20th century. And then there's one more book that I can't recall.
A book on syphilis, that would be the ideal Christmas gift, it seems to me.
Well, I mean, if you can pair it with a biography of a prostitute, and then you have that, I guess goes together. But anyway, before we devolve into ludicrous conversation, let's welcome. I'm glad that we have happy to welcome our guest tonight, Paige James, who is the gift shop manager at the Historic Arkansas Museum. And she is here with us tonight. And I've actually purchased gifts at the gift shop to give us Christmas presents. So welcome, Paige. We're glad to have you here.
Hi. Glad to be here.
Paige has family down at Monticello, Arkansas. And she lived out of state for a time and then came back and been at the Historic Arkansas Museum, I think you told me, since 2002.
That's right.
So you've got a long history there. The reason we chose the Historic Arkansas Museum is because for decades, really going way back, the Arkansas Territorial Restoration, which became Historic Arkansas Museum a few years ago, they have had a really fine gift shop with original works. None of this tourist trap stuff that you see in so many places. And so we really appreciate having the ham gift shop, as well as, I mean, there are plenty of others too, but this is one that has a real history behind it. So welcome to our show tonight.
Thank you. The museum store was started by Peg Smith in 1975. And she, and I believe maybe with Gordon Rather, traveled around the state looking for Arkansas made work to carry in the store. And so we've been carrying Arkansas made for a long time, and we tried to continue that tradition to support the mission of the museum, which is to preserve the Arkansas's creative legacy. And
you've done that very well. Not just the gift shop, but as you say, the museum itself is really incredibly important to telling the story of Arkansas. So anyone who goes to the ham gift shop and buys something is helping make sure that that museum is able to do its job.
Absolutely. And
well, you have some things to share with us this evening?
I do. I will mention just real quickly, we have free parking, so this is a great place to come and shop.
Well, in downtown Little Rock, that's something.
That is. So right across the street from the museum. You showed the picture by Natalie Henry, and it just so happened that, of course, the museum recently published the second edition of Arkansas Made Volumes 1 and 2. And, it's a heavy book, but it's like weighs probably 12 pounds. This is Volume 1. It's about 400 pages. It's only $39.95.
That is a good deal, and that is a great reference work.
So this book kind of covers quilts and textiles, ceramics, silver, and furniture.
What you have there on the cover of that is a chair, I believe, designed by
Fulbright.
Well, I think they were made by the Fulbright Company up in Fayetteville, but it was designed by the architect from Fayetteville, Edward Durrell Stone. I think maybe he started that line, if I'm not mistaken, of furniture made. And I assume that I have been told that furniture was used in the hotels that he designed, and that there's I heard that a lot of it was used at a big hotel in Panama that he designed.
Oh, our curator could probably confirm that.
Yeah. I would love that. I would love to have a piece of furniture by Edward Durrell Stone for Christmas.
I guess you would.
And then Volume 2 covers paintings and photography. But one of the artists in there is Natalie. It's covered in there is Natalie Henry. And we just happened to have, we did a little set of note cards of women artists in Arkansas. So there's each box set has 8 different cards, and one of them is this piece by Natalie Henry.
Oh, good.
That's nice.
Very nice.
We run the risk in talking about these 2 volumes, and it's a 2-volume set called Arkansas Made. And we run the risk in talking about it in a short period like this of giving it just a really quick once over. And that's not fair, because these 2 books are probably the most important thing that's ever been published on the history of not just the decorative arts, but all kinds of really amazing stuff. on photographs, for example. In
Right.
my mind, that's the place to go to if you want a good background information on the history of photography.
Exhaustive research, I can tell you, went into that book years and years.
Well, decades.
So
Really,
that's
seriously.
right.
Those books were in production, were in the works over many decades. Swanee
Mhm.
Bennett and Bill Worthen contributed so much. And then in the last few years, the museum has added other staff to work on this and came out with just a profoundly important book.
Yeah, so the
And
second edition just came out earlier in the year.
And
And
they're expensive.
they're $39.95 each. That's very affordable.
It is, and I mean,
Mhm.
you don't usually find a book for $39.95 anymore.
Those books, given their size, given the extremely high production values, the very fine paper, the extraordinary photography work, and the quality of the publications, those books would easily retail for $70 a piece.
Mhm.
Now, of course, they have been underwritten by the state, drawing upon its, I've forgotten what the name of that particular fund is that was created for this particular purpose. But that means that those books should be in everybody's library. They can't use expense as a reason not to buy them.
Mhm.
Now they are heavy. They're very heavy. You're not going to take those books to bed with you.
And you don't want to take them on your carry-on on the plane either. I did that.
Probably not.
I did that, and it's not fun.
Um,
What else do you have for us to?
Well, you've mentioned you loved ceramics, you loved pottery, so we've always definitely a medium that we carry in the store. And so I had a few pieces I thought I would show. This is a batter bowl. You can see the little
spout.
So you can mix. It's functional for the batter out. This is by Black River Pottery from Pocahontas.
Is there a particular artist that's associated with that, or does it just come under Black River Pottery?
Oh, well, it's James Tinker.
Oh, okay. So that
he just calls his
I got you.
pottery studio Black River Pottery.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's really nice. That would not be a good Christmas gift for me since I don't cook, but.
Well, no, but you have shelves full of Arkansas pottery.
I do. Yes, I do.
May I inject this just because it came
Sure.
to me all of a sudden? Speaking of Arkansas pottery,
I
have lunch in Benton frequently with a group of friends, and recently several of them had been to a funeral at the First Presbyterian Church in Benton. Guess what their communion stuff is made of? Guess what it is? Nyloke.
Oh,
Benton,
that's interesting.
Benton is the home of Nyloke pottery, which was, I guess you'd have to say, one of the premier potteries in Arkansas history. And someone gave the church sufficient pieces of Nyloke to actually create a communion set. And I just thought that was wonderful. I've never been, I haven't seen it myself. Got any more ceramics to share with us?
Well, this is a piece. The artist's name is Virginie Healy, and she, along with her husband Ray Schott, have a studio called Cray May, and so it's a slab built piece. It's a vase with these elements hand applied. You can see there are flowers. There's a little bee down here. So it's very decorative, but also functional.
I took a class, a
Mhm.
pottery class at the art center with Virgin. I know Virgin, and I
Did
remember
you?
I did, and I remember her making the flowers and the bees and
Yeah,
things like that. So,
that's very time consuming.
oh yeah, yeah, that's nice. I like that piece.
Mhm. And so some of the artists that we carry, we've been carrying for years, as long as I've been here and preceded me. And so one of those is Meyer Wood Designs from Yellville, Ron and Sharon Myers, and they do a line of what they call treen ware, which means of the tree. So they're all handmade wooden utensils. And this is one of the most unique in their line, and it's one we sell. It's been very popular because it's a set of salad tongs, but they're in the shape of a ginkgo leaf.
Oh,
That's really nice. And of course, the ginkgos are really pretty right now. There's a lot of ginkgos around.
Oh yes, we
Yeah.
have a ginkgo tree on our grounds, and it's gorgeous. Let's see, I've got
let me interrupt and
Oh,
ask
sure.
you a question.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
this is, we haven't practiced this or anything, so I might throw you a curve. But do you handle any jewelry with Arkansas pearls by any chance?
I don't have any of the Arkansas pearls. No, unfortunately, we do have pearls, and the woman who does these, this is actually two different necklaces. The top is just a little pearl with some links, and then the more traditional strand. She has some of those Arkansas pearls that she got, I believe, from a woman in Newport.
Yes, that's where they're sold.
Yes, but they're higher end, much higher end than the pieces that I carry from her in the store. Her name is Nancy McGraw. She lives here in Little Rock, and so the pearls that I carry, she travels around the world and hand selects pearls directly from pearl farmers. So these are cultured freshwater pearls, but because she buys directly, they're affordable.
Mhm.
Paige, we might say that those are not Arkansas pearls, but on the other hand, if you look deeply enough, they probably are, because the Japanese, who grow many of the pearls in the world, they buy their seed pearls that are made from Arkansas mussel shells. Arkansas has long been a producer of not only pearls, but mussel shells for making buttons and all kinds of stuff. And one of the uses of these mussel shells is to grind them up and make little tiny seeds out of them, which they then implant in the oyster, and it becomes the pearl.
I didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that
they
used.
At least for a time, almost all of them came from Arkansas. I don't know if that's the case anymore or not. Arkansas had a pearl rush in the early 20th century, in which people came in from all over the area, from out of state and everywhere, to look for pearls in the White River. They were going to get rich. Actually, there were some great pearls taken out of Arkansas, and some people some people did make quite a lot of money off of them.
Now, Paige, you also, I think I'm remembering correctly, you also, the gift shop also sells pocket knives, or am I misremembering that?
We sell the Mccoy pocket knives.
Is he from Mount Ida?
Mount Ida.
Yeah.
And I did not bring one over here with me, but I do have a good selection of the Mccoy pocket knives and whetstones. the Arkansas whetstones, of course, made from the Arkansas novaculite, which is apparently a highly, the vaculite from Arkansas is a very high grade and sought after around the world. It's used in for tools. Of course, what I sell here are just the blocks for sharpening knives. We also sell some little nail files made out of the novaculite, and they'd be a great stocking stuffer.
You know, novaculite is so associated with Arkansas that for much, I guess, most of the 19th and probably early 20th century, whetstones were called Arkansas stones. They were also called oil stones and lots of other things, but they were so often from Arkansas that they took they were commonly referred to as Arkansas stones, and that's a very early example of mining in Arkansas, because it happened long before the Europeans came. The Indians had mined novaculite for a long, long time. And on another occasion, Tim, we can talk about the role of novaculite in Arkansas prehistory and history too, for that matter.
Do you know, I just recently learned that Arkansas has a turquoise mine, which I had never known, but there's a very small turquoise mine. It's called the Mona Lisa mine in, I think it's Polk County. And so I do have a few pieces of a few earrings made from the Arkansas turquoise.
Wow, that would be a great thing to give somebody for Christmas. And I assume they are quite attractive, in addition to being Arkansas related.
Right.
Jewelry has always been your store has always offered some interesting Arkansas related jewelry, but I will say that it's, in fairness to other venues, in Little Rock, or in Central Arkansas, we're particularly lucky to have not only the Ham gift shop, but also the old State House gift shop, the Arkansas, what used to be the Arkansas Arts Center. They have had in the past, at least, a fabulous gift shop and much of the material there is Arkansas made. Shiloh Museum in Springdale has a great gift shop. I've bought lots of stuff up there. The Arts and Science Center in Southeast Arkansas at Pine Bluff, they have a nice gift shop. There are lots of places.
Well, we just have there are a lot of really talented artisans and makers in Arkansas. And working here, my eyes have really been open to just what a wonderful artistic tradition, that does exist here.
And I think this harkens back to the books Arkansas made. If you don't think Arkansas has a long and amazing tradition in the arts, you've got another thing coming. And if you get these two books Arkansas made, it's laid out there in front of you. And we're not talking about just one medium or anything like that. It's across the board. There have been people making things, creating things in Arkansas ever since it began, I guess.
Do you have other things you could show us, Paige?
Yes. Let's see.
What would in the store, what would you like to receive for Christmas? If someone was buying a gift for you from the gift shop, what would you like?
There's so much, it's hard. But, over the years, my family this is where, I do a lot of my shopping, and my family have received a lot of gifts from here. But I've made the mistake of not writing down what I gave to who, what year. And then apparently I found out I gave my daughter-in-law the same thing 2 years in a row. So I've gotten smarter about that. So we also have food products. That's we have some Arkansas-made food products, and so some of the so we carry a line of honey from Lake in the Willow Apiary from Scott, Arkansas, and I have carry their honey in different sizes and different jars. This is what they call the collector's glass jar. It's 8 ounce. I also have it in the 4 ounce. And then they make this little teeny, little 2 ounce mason jar.
That's
So
cute.
I always try to think of stocking stuffers too, because I know when I was always shopping for Christmas gifts for my children or family and trying to think of at the last minute, I would be running around looking for stocking stuffers. That also comes in a cute little bear.
Oh, that's cute. That would make
That's
a good
cute.
stocking stuffer.
Yes, it would.
What are the hours of the gift shop? You may have mentioned this or that earlier, but what if so?
The store's open Tuesday through Saturday from 9:30 to 4:30, and on Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4:30.
Okay.
The museum is closed on Mondays.
You used to handle some prints by Lewis and Elsie Friend, the wonderful painters and other.
Well, we have their work in our collection.
Yes, I know that.
What I do have some posters for sale that we made ourselves, of their prints.
The Historic Arkansas Museum has one of the largest, perhaps the largest art collection, Arkansas art. I'm sure it's probably the largest collection of Arkansas art. It's been systematically collected now for years. And once again, much of that is exhibited in those 2 volumes.
Mm-hmm.
I've always had a fantasy about owning a painting by Washburn, Cephas Washburn's son. What was his name?
Edward Payson.
Edward Payson Washburn. That's just a fantasy, of course. But when I worked at the University of Arkansas Libraries in the Special Collections Department, right outside my office was his portrait of Albert Pike. And it is a fabulous, fabulous portrait. And that's always been, the holy grail of art collecting for me, was to somehow or other find something done by Edward Payson Washburn. He died as a mere child. He was like 24, 25 years old when he died. Of course, he did the Arkansas Traveler painting, which is sort of iconic. But he also did other work. You can find his work in Arkansas Made.
Mm-hmm.
So Paige, you mentioned, you touched on stocking stuffers. So it sounds like, and I need to come down and visit you guys. You have stocking stuffers all the way up to larger gifts that people can purchase.
We have things and we have some things for children too. I don't know that one new line are some that we're carrying is these hardwood, a line of hardwood toys. That we have the little race cars, the cargo trucks, a train, a farm truck, and these are by it's called Tough Ash Toys. There's a lot of them are made of ash with the walnut wheels. And they're made in Bentonville. The artisan's name is Austin Vanderveer.
Hmm.
So no batteries required, just kid powered.
I would have loved to have gotten one of those when I was a kid.
Well, I wanted, when I was a kid, I wanted a little wind up bulldozer, and it had sparks that came out of the top when you wound it up and let it go, and it would climb over things. It was great. I just thought that was the just perfect Christmas gift. Do you anticipate that that the gift shop will continue to seek out more and new people as time goes by? I'm sure you have some of your artists and other suppliers who maybe go out of business or retire or whatever.
Absolutely. And that has happened since I've been here. I don't know if you remember Peter Lippincott, Mud Puppy Pottery.
In Fort Smith.
Yes. Of course, he retired and moved to Mexico. And so we sure hated to lose him.
He had been designated as one of the artistic treasures. I think the Department of Heritage designated him as a treasure.
Arkansas Living Treasure. He was.
I have a piece of his work. Playful, fun pottery.
Yeah, just he used so many different glazes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I believe. So I have one of his bowls, and I think it's the first thing I bought from here after I started working here. And so over the years, in fact, started me collecting pottery, I think. And I have a small collection. But I absolutely love pottery. That's probably one of my favorite art mediums. But we're definitely just continuing to look for and bring in new artists, especially now that things are kind of getting back to normal. Visitation is, picked back up, and we're seeing people in the store. So just.
Well, and I'll say you've actually helped me pick out gifts before, and you're very helpful when it comes to when I've been in before and didn't really know what I was looking for, and you were very helpful in helping me choose a gift.
Oh, good. Well,
so you have great customer service at the gift shop as well. So, and I think that advice was free. I don't think you charged me for it.
Oh, and we don't charge for, we don't gift wrap with wrapping paper, but we do have our pretty bags. I don't have one right here with me, but we do free gift sacks with tissue and bows.
Well, if anyone has a question, I'll remind folks that if you have a question, just use the chat feature in here. And if you have a question for Paige or about the Historic Arkansas Museum, or a question for Tom and myself, feel free to use the chat feature.
You know, Tim, we were talking earlier about ceramics and how Paige loves ceramics. I do too. I think there's something about ceramics that just appeal to people. The tactile nature of it, the design. You can take a lump of clay and create so many different things out of it. When I come to your house, Tim, one of the things that just really I really noticed a lot is your mantle in the living room. It is just filled with Arkansas ceramics. Yeah, you have lots of Nilo pottery. Do you have any Kamark?
I do have some Kamark pottery.
Kamark pottery has been overlooked, I think, to a certain degree. You know, both Nilo and Kamark, in order to adapt to changing times and everything, and in order to stay in business, they started mass producing and some of that mass produced stuff is really quite nice.
Mhm.
But Kamark in its early phase, they had some wonderful designers there, some wonderful ceramic experienced ceramicists, and some of that early Kamark stuff, it will just blow you off your chair because it is so nice. It's unusual. It has unusual finish. Many of them have a real richness about them. Kamark.
I think maybe when I retire, I might take a pottery class.
I mentioned earlier that I had taken a pottery class at the Arts Center where I had a pottery class with Virginia, but Shirley sent us a message and reminded me that she has a piece of my pottery on her counter, I think, or what'd she say? Pottery dish on her coffee station that I made in pottery class. It holds her used tea bags. So
That's Shirley Shooting.
I think that's Shirley there.
Well, you know, people who take pottery classes at the Art Center and other places, often they just fall deeply in love with it and just want to do more and more and more.
It's very cathartic, I will say that. And you know, if you find a piece of Tim Nutt pottery, it's very rare because I destroy the ones I don't like, and I give away the ones that I.
Does that rareness connote value?
No, they're not. They're not directly related.
Well, someday maybe.
While we're on ceramics, I didn't mention ornaments. So we do have some ornaments, and we have these really sweet ceramic ornaments. We have some that are in the shape of Arkansas, different designs, different colors, and these are by Humboldt Hand Pottery in Rogers, and some little Christmas tree.
Paige, do y'all have a set of coasters there that are like have the cities around Arkansas and things?
Oh, yes, those are fun.
But when I went to visit my relatives in Liechtenstein a few years ago, I came to Ham and bought some of those coasters. I was taking some Arkansas related gifts to them, and they loved those coasters. I think there was one that has world cities that are in Arkansas, you know, like Paris,
like Paris
and London,
and
like that.
Romance in Arkansas, like Rosebud, and then Never Go Hungry in Arkansas. The city names are escaping me on that one.
But those are such neat gifts, and my relatives in Liechtenstein absolutely loved them.
And easy to travel with.
Yes,
lightweight.
They were easy to put in my carry-on luggage. So, well, we are running out of time, but Paige, thank you so much for being here. And I would encourage everyone to go down to Historic Arkansas Museum gift shop and do some Christmas shopping, holiday shopping.
And we also have an online store too. Now, not everything in the store is on the online store, but that is available, and we ship or do curbside pickup, or you can come into the store and pick it up, and that is historicarkstore.org. So ARK.
Okay, and they can actually, if they don't remember that, they could go to the Historic Arkansas website and then get to the store that way as well, right?
Definitely, yes.
Well, great. Thank you so much, Paige, for being here tonight.
Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Yes, indeed.
So, well, it's good seeing you. Good. Thank you all for joining in. Go down to Ham and get your Christmas gifts, purchase your Christmas gifts, and we will see everyone next month.
Well, and to our viewers like Virginia Coogan and Malin Rice from Fayetteville, head on over to Shiloh. Although, the Historical Society in Washington County, they have a gift shop in the headquarters house there. There are lots of gift shops around. People who give Christmas gifts that are sort of meaningless and without any sort of background or connection, they have no excuse for that anymore. We have such a marvelous array of good outlets.
Mhm. So, well, thank you all for being here, Paige. Thank you again. Y'all have a safe night and a nice weekend and nice Thanksgiving.